And a lot of clients do struggle with allowing themselves just to enjoy or just to skip a weekend where you don't have to run up a mountain and just stay on your terrace or potter around in the garden or something. But for a person in Tyrol, that's the area where I live, it's almost, what, you didn't do anything today, but the weather was so good. It's almost like they have this need, okay, the weather is good, so we have to do something.
Welcome to the Optimum Human Podcast, the show that interviews the world's top experts in fitness, nutrition, mindset, and beyond. Let's get into the show.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Optimum Human Podcast. My name is Brian McKay, he's Claude Petroulis, and we are your hosts of the Optimum Human Podcast. So today we've got another amazing guest, Birgit Venetz. I know I got the first name right. Did I get the last name right?
Both perfect. Excellent.
Beautiful. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me and having me on your show. Thank you.
Absolutely excited to talk with you. And Claude, sir, how are you?
I'm good, Brian. I'm very good. You know what? We've got a fellow Austrian on, so we're going to have a great podcast.
God, I need to consider a new partner for this show. And with that being said, let's get right into our guest. So, Birgit, my dear, thank you again for coming on. So, for our listening audience that doesn't know, who are you and what is it that you do?
Who am I? Well, as you said before perfectly, my name is Birgit. I'm Austrian, so I'm in the Austrian Alps. Here it's afternoon while it's morning over there. And I work as a holistic health coach. I've been on the health road probably, well, obviously, as most people, got put on it out of personal problems for the last 17 years or so. And have been growing into it on, with first the physical side of things, the nutritional side of things, and now I'm seeing it really holistically, bring a lot of spirituality and consciousness into it, and have now kind of come to a really nice, beautiful package, which I call like joyful health, spiritual, holistic living. As for me, it's really important to include everything. And for me, nature is really, really, really important, and that's why I live in the Austrian Alps. So that's basically my passions, is healthy lifestyle and lots of nature.
Beautiful. And so could you get a little bit deeper into, what got you started on your health journey?
Yes, I think for me, everything's slightly different because in Europe, I always say to everyone, I've traveled and lived all over the world. I lived in Canada for a while. I lived 9 years in Australia. And while I was abroad, I realized Europe's always about 10 years behind in the good things as well as in the bad things. So while you were already having lots of artificial foods and really bad foods, here in Austria, we were still quite protected. So I grew up a really normal way. My mom cooked. You went to the markets. Austria was really strict with food laws, like really toxic colors were not allowed. Like our Fanta never had that really orange color when I was a child. We just didn't even know that. So I was basically raised in a really protected sort of area.
So I hate to cut you off here, but did your Fanta have a different color?
Yeah, it was like a really pale yellowish color with not much color.
Wow, I'm totally intrigued by that.
Yes, it is. And to me, it was really intriguing when we traveled and suddenly we had this really weird looking orange drink in front of us.
Bright, toxic orange hazard
that's right.
color.
So Austria was really protected, and now obviously looking back, I realize how great that was. And then the European Union came, or we came into the European Union, and then it all went downhill because the European Union food laws are not really that great. It really much aligned or not. Yeah, it's working closely with the FDA, not quite as bad, but pretty close.
I was going to say they probably follow the U.S. pretty well.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. We always pick up on things whenever people. I don't know how many Europeans but Europeans tend to be a little bit uppity about being European and pointing at America when something weird happens over there, like in regards to food or health. But I always say to them, just look at them now, that's us in 10 years.
Right.
But then in 10 years, some other weird thing has happened in the States or in Australia. So we will once again be able to laugh. Even so, I then tell people in 5 or 10 years, we're doing the same thing. So just be ready. And I think now we catch up quicker and quicker and quicker. And Europe's not nearly as safe and protected as it used to be. So basically, for me, it was all a really normal and natural approach. And then I traveled all over the place. And when I went to live in Australia, because I was married to an Australian, I could really taste the difference in foods. Like a yogurt tasted artificial, a carrot tasted like water, and that's when then my health started going downhill a bit. I just started getting intolerances and just didn't feel quite as great. And immediately went on to the looking at the things, what is it about nutrition that is so different? And that's when I learned about the beautiful book from Paul Chek, Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. And I was like horrified, reading about all these things, because in Austria, no, we did not put hormones in chickens and we did not have the antibiotics. And that explained why the chicken in Australia, the chicken breast was so huge, there were a lot of explanations there. So that was basically for me then the beginning to look into it professionally, because there was also the need for me privately, as it's for most people. Usually we get on that path.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about, the carrot tasting like water and things like that, in hindsight, what do you know the reason why, the differences in flavor and color and such?
Yeah, especially with Australia, it's quite clear. They said all Europeans that move to Australia within 3 to 4 years to get mineral deficient, because the earth in Australia is quite mineral deficient. And if you then, at that point, I did not know about organic foods, because in Austria and Tyrol, I didn't need to eat it because everything was from the farmer anyway. And then eating conventional with grown on earth that is not very nutritious anyway, which is the normal Australian earth, filled with pesticides and herbicides, it was just a really bad combination. Yeah.
Is Australia mostly clay or sand, or do you know what the composition of the soil?
I think it was mainly clay. I think. Okay. I'm not even sure. I think it's clay. But
what makes up the ground here where I'm at.
Yeah, and then I changed to all organic, and then the produce tasted a lot better and a lot nicer. So there was just in going from really good quality to Australia and then eating stuff I wasn't really aware of that didn't have that much to do with food, to then immediately do a complete turn to organic. And organics, that was around 2000. I mean, it cost like 3 times as much as conventional food at that point. Like now, it's not even that expensive anymore to eat organically, but at those days, it was definitely
well, it's also not the same organic that it was 15, 20 years ago either.
No, absolutely.
It's, unfortunately, the organic label has been bastardized by big business, but it's still definitely better than conventional.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
Brian, you know what else the ground near you is composed of?
Bullet casings?
Yes. Detroit joke.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh boy. So
I did not get that.
Okay, well in Detroit there's a lot of shootings and crime. So.
Okay.
It used to be the #1 most dangerous city in the United States.
Okay.
I live about a half hour outside of Detroit, so.
I see.
So so he gets to hear the fireworks, just not get participating. So
all right.
So I want to ask a little bit, since you guys are 10 years kind of ahead but behind at the same time, what's the biggest issue that you're finding with clients nowadays?
That's also really funny. For having been away for so long, I now have the issues that I had with everybody in Australia while I was living in Australia. Like I encountered people that had no idea how to cook soup, like broth. I grew up with broth, and now it's the big thing. Everybody talks about bone broth, and people sell it everywhere. And we here still grew up, and I kept telling everybody in Australia and who I was teaching how to cook properly, I said, oh, everybody in Austria knows that. And then I moved back here, and I was just shocked about the health status of people and about the missing information and the connection with the body, and also not even using old recipes. But as I was also teaching in an educational program, for nutritionists, in adult education, a lot of the students then said, you know what? My grandma always says that. Here we are still at the stage where within families, at least somebody remembers. Whilst I think in other countries that's totally gotten lost, Like in Australia, I did not meet anybody who grew up eating regular warm meals and having, broth and, using proper, just even sitting down at the table sometimes for a lot of people is kind of unusual these days, which to me was really, really strange. I don't know how it is in the States, but I guess eating on the sofa and not having proper meals is probably sometimes an issue too. But the main problem I have here in Austria now is because that was basically how it all started. I started getting these, digestive issues and so forth. And at the same time, I also, as we all do, got a bit older and my body got less forgiving. And thanks to Paul Chek, I first heard about Bill Wolcott then, about metabolic typing. And I'm like, finally somebody says we're all different. Because I followed all the rules that are supposed to be healthy. Obviously I had changed everything to organic. I ate lots of vegetables. I ate fruit. I ate this. But it also didn't really help me very much with the digestive issues I had. So, and I was constantly hungry. I was always hungry. And if I didn't get fed, I would kill people around me. Not really, but, it was dangerous.
In your head anyway.
Me. That's right. So it was not very, very pleasant. It did not affect my body shape. It's not like I gained weight, but I just constantly had to eat and I was never satiated. I was just always looking for more. And that's when it really, really helped me when I read the Metabolic Typing Diet from Bill Wolcott. And like, oh, really, people are different. Thank you, because it's so logical that we're all different, right? As a woman, you go to a cosmetic place and they check your skin type to see which cream to give you. But for food, no, we're all the same, so everybody gets the same recommendations. It's just so unlogical. So, and that to me was the real big gateway then to feeling completely different. Like that to me, learning about, I am a protein type, so I need lots of protein, I need lots of fats. That just gave me all the energy and the health that I really wanted to have and, that everybody should have. So that was basically, those two things were really important. And probably for me, it was important that I moved to Australia because there I learned about it a lot quicker than probably in Austria. Because now people, are picking up on things, like we talked just briefly about kettlebells just before because I saw the photo. They started with that in Europe, 4 years ago or 5? That's been around the States and Australia at least 10 years or longer, right?
Yeah, and in Russia, about 100.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, in Russia, yeah. But it's a real trend here now too. So even with those trends, or the smoothies, I already had to tell all my clients I know I already had to tell all my clients in Australia, well, it's not really, for some people it might be good, but for most people, I don't consider it as a food, quite frankly. I think we have teeth to chew, and there's lots and lots of ways to get nutrients in us. But, there's just different views on that. But that's a real boom here now. But that only started a few years ago. So basically, whatever madness you're doing over there, tell me, and then we start a franchise over here.
That's a brilliant business plan.
I
may take you up on that.
What we come up on at podcasts, right?
Absolutely.
It's like seeing into the future.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the things I've noticed with smoothies, and you probably noticed this too, guys, is that people just jam a bunch of fruits into their blender and just go for it, right? So essentially they're having, this sugar shake, even though it's fruits and natural, but it's still like, not only is it calories, it's just spiking your blood sugar. So like just because it's a smoothie does not necessarily mean it's healthy. Like you got to watch what you put in it.
Insane. And the other thing is people just gulp it down, they don't salivate in their mouth unless you really leave it in your mouth and put some saliva with it and kind of treat it like a meal and almost chew it a bit. It just goes whoosh and it's down there. And as you said, it has so much sugar. Sugar starts breaking down, in the mouth, the digestion. So there's so many things that are just weird about it. But I have another funny story about smoothies. I had a friend staying, and she loved green smoothies. She was just doing a health coach course in the States. So she went in my garden and got all the greens, and then she put in my blender and some cashew nuts. And then she said, "Do you want one?" I said, "This looks so disgusting, but I'll still try just a little bit." And I just had a little shot glass of it. And it was really bad. Like there was nothing in it that made it taste just remotely nice.
Right.
And then I said,
you need at least some apples or carrots or something to sweeten it up at least a little bit.
Yeah. And then I said to her, "How can you drink that?" I just had a sip. I said, "This is just my life's too short to drink that, quite frankly." And she said, "Oh no, it doesn't matter. It's good for you. So you just drink it really quickly. Then it's not that bad." And I'm like, "Don't you get the point? What food and life and nutrition is about? It's also about enjoyment and actually savoring what you do and eat, and not just like holding your nose basically and just gulping it down thinking it'll do you good. It's not going to do you good."
Yeah, you got to suffer to be healthy.
So that's it, yeah. So one rule of mine is if you don't like something, don't eat it, because there's lots of other healthy things that are just as good that then are much better for you. If your mindset's right and you actually love it too, because loving your food is half the way, really.
Yeah, and there's probably a physiological reason why you don't like a certain food. There's probably some sort of intolerance or something else going on that is why you don't like that particular food.
Absolutely. Or it's such a strange and weird combination nobody was ever meant to eat or drink, like green stuff from my garden with cashew nuts.
Right.
It's like, sorry, I'm probably offending some smoothie drinkers now.
That's good. People need to be offended. Hell, me and Claude need to be offended. It's hard to do, though.
It's very hard to do. We're assholes. So
we're a rowdy bunch.
We can take it as good as we can give it. Oh, that doesn't.
And I think that's the important thing these days, because a lot of people can only take, and I think or can only give, but the taking is almost the bigger fun, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
Oh, Jesus.
Right, Brian.
Yes. No, it just reminded me of that J.P. Sears video where he's if meat eaters acted like vegans.
Yes.
And just the asinineness. Yeah, I'm making up words. So nana boo boo.
Yeah, that was just so fun. All his. I don't know. Do you know him? Have you ever met him?
Yeah, we've had him on the show.
Okay, because he's just so clever.
Yeah,
like,
he gets
unbelievable.
Is,
Every time I listen to him, like so well delivered and to the point, and it's just I think it's great. I really like that.
Brilliant guy with an amazing sense of humor. So
yeah, and we need more of that, because humor is lacking these days, I find. So everybody always gets offended. Yeah.
So what do you find funny?
What do I find? Don't ask me.
Apparently that question.
Brian and I just being completely juvenile.
That's right. No, there's one thing. I used to work as a tour guide for American tourists in Europe.
Oh, that must have been great.
Told, never talk about religion or politics. So I know you don't do that in the States, but I'll still, if I find something funny, but almost sadly funny, is what's happening with your president at the moment.
Yeah.
This in Europe, nobody can understand. Nobody. Like, there's just a total lack of comprehension how, So it's funny and sad at the same time. But I like funny things. But funny things that don't really hurt people, because so many funny things hurt people. So, like people make fun for, on others or at others. How do you say? Against others. So that's no good. But what really gives me the biggest pleasure instead of like now what is funny is when people finally feel healthy again, because you asked me before and I didn't really answer that yet because I answered something else. What with clients?
Sorry, there you cut out for just a second. Can you repeat that?
Okay, am I back?
Yep, you're back.
When you had asked what's the biggest challenge with clients before, and one of the biggest challenges, I'm sure you totally agree with that too, is people don't even know what it is anymore to be healthy or what it means to feel healthy. And B, to have all these fear-driven decisions, like whatever they do, everything's just ruled by fear, basically. So I'm sure you probably have that, probably over there even more so than here, that I once remember, it's obviously in German that I wrote that, but I wrote a news blog on the difference between widely spread and normal. When people say, or bloating or something.
You're
cutting out again.
Sorry, am I back?
You're back.
Yeah. So, how I was saying the difference between widespread and normal, how people think just because because it's normal to, be tired in the afternoon, it's normal to be bloated, it's normal not to be able to fall asleep because all the other people they know don't either. So I find now, and you probably have the same issue, it's almost like educating people again what their body is capable of. I mean, it almost seems like people's standards or expectations have gone down a lot, and they kind of start living with things, like, oh, that's just the way it is, certain things, and then they only start acting when something major happens, which to me is really weird, because if I find, as I'm sure you do too, as soon as there's something getting a little bit weird, then you look at it immediately and sort it out, and then it's all back to normal, basically. So yeah, so those are definitely things that I think are probably a problem everywhere. And the fear, I mean, talking about the nocebo effect, some people eat so healthy, but then have such a fear it might be the wrong thing for them that the whole benefit of the food gets destroyed right there and then, So I think our mindset about food is what I work a lot with my clients, because just telling them, what's right is one thing, but if they don't feel at ease with doing what they do, it's gonna boycott everything they are doing. So yeah. So that's definitely one of the one of quite a few challenges, obviously, the clients over here encounter. And I guess it's all because of the confusion. I mean, there's so much information, we all know, like you just look at the internet. I mean, we could spend a day looking at the internet, and every website would say one thing's, everything would be at least one's healthy and at least one's unhealthy, because there's nothing that they agree on. And I think that's the most dangerous thing at the moment. So, yeah.
Definitely a lot of information.
Yeah, you were talking earlier, and it totally reminded me of, when I have someone fill out a health assessment questionnaire, and it comes back with, like, all zeros. It just lets me know that people are, A, not healthy, and B, totally out of tune with what's actually going on in their body, because their answers are saying that they're perfectly healthy, but I'm looking at them in pain, overweight, and there's a disconnect there. So definitely, one of our jobs is to be able to teach people to get back in touch with what's really going on in their body.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Connect with themselves, because we all have that wisdom inside, but nobody ever teaches us to access this. And when we actually do as children, we get told off by our parents. How often, I don't know if that's the same in the States, but here when you eat some bread, like at least it's a rye bread, with some, let's say, some salami on it, and the child would only pick off the salami or the ham, then the parents would say, no, you have to eat your bread as well.
Right.
And the child would have made the right decision for its body, but no, the parents like, no, you got to eat the bread as well.
Right. Eat the whole thing.
That's right. And you finish
We
your
still
plate.
think it's the 1930s when everybody, was starving for just a crumb of bread.
Absolutely. Yeah, you got to finish that.
So,
yeah.
I mean, just that there, I mean, just a whole community, or the word is leaving me.
Tradition.
Yeah, basically the way people are brought up in a mindset of scarcity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just travels from generation to generation.
Yeah, it's terrible. Now, Birgit, where do you think like the fear-based decisions come from? Do you think that's just from not knowing, or do you think that comes from a deeper place?
I think one of the answers is the one that Brian just said, or you also said just now with, I also do a lot of energy work. So there's all these, we do have a lot of memory from ancestors and so forth in our DNA. So when they were starving, we will probably still have a little bit of that mentality in us. Oh my God, there might not be enough. So that's for a lot of clients that I work with that just eat. There was some famine sometime hundreds of years ago where some relative actually was burdened by that. But that's just one aspect.
Other fear. I hate to cut you off here, but I am just kind of curious on your take. Now, do you believe that is truly within the DNA, or do you believe that that's more environmental and just kind of taught from parent to child?
I actually think that's in DNA.
Okay.
Both. But I work a lot with ancestral clearing with John Newton. And I also, I've done so many courses with Dr. Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, Dr. Joe Dispenza. And when you really get deep into that, it's just fascinating, And when you do work, when I do like ancestral clearing with clients or friends, it leads you to places where your mind clearly could never get you, because we're only aware of 5 to 10%, of what's going on. Everything is in our unconscious or subconscious, and it leads you to places which is just fascinating, and you just clear something and suddenly something is gone. They've been struggling for 30, 40 years, and if you would have to explain it with the mind we've grown up with and gone to school with and been told stuff with, we could not explain it. I mean, there's so much more to it than our body, and we're so interconnected, and there's all this information there, and we have, all this connection with everything that's been before us. And if we carry that in our memories, in our DNA, in our bodies, it will show somehow. Yeah. So ancestral clearing is really a beautiful thing, and it's helped me a lot. It's helped my clients a lot. It really goes nicely with the whole physical, getting the physical body looked at. If you do also carry old baggage. Yeah. So it's really fascinating. But to go back to fear, I think the other aspect of fear is, yes, what we've been told by our parents, but who listens to the parents? Let's face it. What we are being told by media, by health, under brackets now, all these health trend books, and I mean, every time you look at something, it's gonna kill you. Don't eat that, don't do that, don't do that. And that really caused a lot of harm for me, because when I first started on that healthy, on that health path, there was a lot of no's. And I think now people have realized we gotta talk gentler with our clients so that we don't put them in fear of something. We have to tell them this is what's really good for you, and at the same time not make them fear all the other stuff, because they will come across the other stuff. We do live here, and sometimes we can't avoid it, and then it's important that we're not totally freaking out and completely in fear when there is a little bit of this or that around. But I think the fear is really corporate greed driven as well, because it's very convenient when normal natural products get booed and said it's unhealthy, and then all these other products end up in the supermarkets which we are told that are so good for us. So it's the industry, and then the farming, like all these industries, we know what they want. They want to make money. And
that's what it comes down to.
and their messages are scary. I mean, or I remember in the States or even in Australia also the advertising about medication. I mean, you watch the news, or not the news, that for 5 minutes and you feel sick because everybody has one of those symptoms that gets mentioned. Are you sometimes tired? Well, who isn't sometimes tired?
Right.
I'm tired in the evening when I go to bed. Yeah, if I interpret that information wrong. But like they really try to make you feel that way.
Well, yeah, and I mean, they have the funding to hire the best marketers to get the result that they're looking for. And so it's really, we're nothing more than kind of guinea pigs to watch TV and get sold these medications.
Absolutely. And I mean, only the fact that, the neuroscience studies, the most money is spent on how to influence us with marketing. So the studies on our brains done for marketing and not for our health anymore. I mean, that alone is scary when you hear that. It's just, it's really weird what that world has come to. And that's why for me that whole holistic approach is so important, like that people connect to nature, that people connect to their body, and really I lead them into getting in touch with their own guidance again. And that doesn't happen from one day to the other, like there's often, we have to reprogram ourselves. We've been programmed on a certain level for so long now. And then with changing our habits and doing certain routines and exercises and clearings and stuff and doing some energy work, it's really a good way just to reprogram and then just see life and everything differently again. And then it's actually really beautiful. And people that complain a lot stop complaining, which is wonderful.
Wonderful for everybody.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Don't bring me your problems unless you've got a solution.
Oh, Brian.
No, what clients often want is give me the solution, but I don't want to do anything for it.
Yeah. Fair enough.
That's so often the mindset of so many people. I remember in Australia, I used to work as a personal trainer and nutritionist. Like obviously it went hand in hand, and I'd have people come to me that say, "Well, I want to get healthier. So what do you think? Is it? I'm not going to do both. That's going to be too much. But so should I exercise or should I eat better?" But I'm not going to do both. Like, that's so bizarre, that you just don't realize, it just.
Wow, what a scarcity mindset. You can have both.
I know. And then the other thing is, like some people that are mainly about their body and about getting healthy on a physical level, just through exercise, they want to know how often a week and how long and how this, and really want a detailed plan. And then don't bother about food. I'm like, well, you eat 3 times or more often a day. That's a lot, like if that's not right, then it's not going to be so efficient either if you exercise those, do this and do how people want to know how many repetitions and how many this and how many that. They get really specific and then they leave out the other part. And, for me, it's really funny. I started with the personal training. Then the nutrition came with it, with the metabolic typing. And then the whole energy work. And now for me, it's really teaching people, to feel themselves again, to teach them how to do things, but then also to feel for themselves how it feels when you feel well. And then you're not forced anymore to make decisions. You decide yourself to make healthy choices because you feel how wonderful it feels. So, I mean, that really is, let's face it, the ultimate goal that we teach people, okay, when I eat this, I feel like that, or, oh, it's true, I don't have to go jogging today when I do a brisk walk. I feel actually better today because a run would have been too much, because a lot of people know today is my running day and I have to run, when people force themselves. And I always say, no, if you don't feel like something, don't do it. And I used to be an overachiever and over-obsessor about doing stuff. And if I didn't run, I would feel I did something wrong. Oh my God, today I didn't do that. And
I'm so lazy, God.
Yeah. And you know what my biggest achievement is, or when they ask me what has been your biggest achievement, like on a physical, like in regards to sports, I said, because I live here in the mountains and people on the weekends, they go hiking or they go mountain biking. And when you have a conversation with them in the evening, they talk in how many altitude meters they had and how many kilometers. It's that sort of, you always have to compare who's done more and how fast they were and stuff. And I'm not playing along with that. So I said, you know what? I sat on the terrace and just enjoyed. It was just beautiful. And to really be able to do that was a big step for me because I was not at that level before. I thought I had to constantly do stuff. And to really just be and enjoy and know that that's really, really good for me, that was a real achievement. So I obviously do sports. I don't sit on the terrace all the time. But when I feel like sitting on the terrace, that's what I do. And I'm happy about it and I'm proud of it. And I think that's the thing. Whatever we do, we should do with passion and with conviction that this is what I'm doing now is right. And not feeling guilty for not doing that or, not going to the gym, even though the weather is good and it would actually be nicer to go for a walk around the lake. You know how some people go indoors instead of doing outdoor stuff and things because they have their routine and, oh no, today's legs day, so I have to go to the gym. So I think to be a little bit more open-minded and just go with the flow and just feel into your body. And when your body says no, then okay, my body doesn't want to do it today. I'm going to do something totally different. I'm going to go crazy and do nothing.
Well, for most people, that is crazy.
The good thing is that you brought this up because I've had the experience many times because I'm sometimes not that smart where I go in, I do a workout. Thank you for laughing, Brian.
You're welcome. You're so funny, Claude. You've got such a great sense of humor.
Oh, thank you, buddy. Right back at you. And I would go into the gym. I would destroy a workout. I would do extra stuff, but before the workout started, I realized, maybe, I don't want to be doing this, or I didn't have enough sleep, or, I didn't have a good meal that day. And then, I do this and it compounds, and then I start feeling bad, which is not what you want from exercise, and you feel bad after a week, and then you start getting sick, and you're like, oh, wait a second, maybe I overdid something. So now I just pretty much listen to my body. I let it guide me. I say, oh, you just want to do some push-ups? That's fine, hang out, go on the treadmill for 5 minutes, that's fine. But it's really important to listen to yourself, like you said, because otherwise then you're just going to start falling down a hole, essentially.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the funny thing is, if anybody listens that's never done anything, I don't want them to feel like, oh, great, they say we don't have to do anything. I think at the beginning, before people start doing anything, sometimes they need a little bit of, they need to get moving. But as soon as we're at our level that we are moving, then there is a tendency to overdo it. So there is this big wide gap. And I assume most people on this show are the ones that are already moving along and a lot. And I think to have the permission or give yourself the permission to listen to your body and say, not today. Now I'm just gonna walk or do something. Mm-hmm. And quite interesting, in Australia, I used to run a lot. And it was so boring. It was just around Centennial Park. It was just, I don't know how many laps I've done there. It was just boring. And here, you have the woods. And I live on 3,300 feet of altitude. And there's everything there. And I remember we had just moved back here. That was 9 years ago. And I went for a run. Beautiful. It was just divine. And I ran. And I stopped. And looked around and started walking. And I said to myself, it was almost like, like I had a meter inside that had said to me, okay, in your life, you have to run an X amount of miles. And I hit that clock and I knew from that moment on, I'm not going to run anymore. And I haven't been running since. I think probably once because I felt, oh, today would be fun to run. But it used to be something I always did, but it was really, and then I just walked and I really soaked up the energy and I was so energized and just so revived by the power of nature, which when I run, I just run past it, I don't even realize it. So I just also, I'm sure everybody's had an experience that you do something and you do it and do it and suddenly you think that's it, I'm done with that. Now on to something new. Yeah. And then you do other exercise, yeah.
And I think a big part of that is also just the appreciation, right? Like now you don't have to run away from it or run through it, right? You can just walk and just take it all in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas before you're just trying to get it done.
Be right, because I have to do that because it's good for my cardio, and then I should do that, and it was almost stressful. When
you should do this, you should do that, you should do this, and then when you live your life like that, you're not really fully in control because you're living by shoulds, right?
Absolutely, and then the
shooting all over yourself.
That's right, and then no pain, no gain. I mean, that saying alone. Like how it's just
run with a broken ankle. It'll really get you places.
I'm pretty sure that was a U.S. military male ego that originated that saying.
Absolutely,
those damn men. Patriarchy.
Crazy. But so I think, and a lot of clients do struggle with allowing themselves just to enjoy or just to skip a weekend where you don't have to run up a mountain and just stay on your terrace or potter around in the garden or something. But for a person in Tyrol, that's the area where I live, it's almost, what, you didn't do anything today, but the weather was so good. It's almost like they have this need, okay, the weather is good, so we have to do something. This thing.
Like an obligation.
Yes, because it's against the rule if you don't do that. Yeah. So I think that's really helping my clients a lot too, just to be gentler with themselves and just to love themselves. And if they're lazy, love the one that's lazy. Who cares, Because most of the time we're on track anyway. But every now and then we want to allow ourselves just to do whatever we want. And if we want to sit on the terrace and read a book, go ahead and do that. It's beautiful. And often, as we know, if we're overtrained anyway, that day or afternoon on the terrace on the terrace will probably give us exactly what we need to get a step further with our training or with something. So I think, being more relaxed about things is definitely the key to more happiness and to just feeling your body and being healthy. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, we definitely want to be respectful of your time. So unless, Claude, you have anything else, we're just going to jump into the wrap-up questions.
I've got 2 questions in one. They might take us on a bit of a ride, so
okay.
we'll see. But Birgit, I want you to just tell us about one success and one failure that you've had, and what you've learned from them. It can be your biggest success or lowest success or biggest failure. Just the lessons you've learned in your life through succeeding and failing.
Biggest success. Well, as I said before, like sitting on the terrace and feeling really good about myself, not doing something was a huge achievement, a success for me. Coming from, like I got to do.
And I think that's a great lesson that you learned,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that I use that a lot because, and I'm, I guess we'll always, I guess that's what we hear. We want to beat ourselves up, not just, there's still areas where I beat myself up because I think I could do this better, I should do that better. As you said, the shoulds again. But on so many levels, I actually have come to peace. And for me, that being here in Austria, sitting on a terrace, doing nothing, really opened me a whole new doorway to being nice to myself. So that really
awesome.
It's really the biggest achievement I've ever had. Because before it sounds stupid, but often letting go of something is a bigger achievement than like getting something new. You
know what? That's an awesome way of looking at it, because the whole being nice to yourself, and that's just amazing. So congratulations with that. I'm still working on that.
Yeah, me too.
Well, at least if we're nice to ourselves, we know one person's nice to us, right?
Right. Yeah, the world will treat us the same way we treat ourselves, or allow others to treat us. So.
Absolutely, I totally, totally agree. So, and then the failure, it's an interesting one. You know what? And I'm really at that point now where I think failures are only because we make them to be failures. Nothing in life is a failure. Everything's a step that we learn something new. So if I had to tell you something, I can't do, yes, of course I goofed up here and I could have done better there and I did this and that. But everything on the long run was the right thing.
Except for coming on this podcast.
Come on, Brian. We haven't
I
treated it that badly.
I kid.
No.
We've done worse to guests. We've done
we
a lot.
have. we've been on
Except
pretty
for
good.
the Arnold voice.
We've been on pretty
apologize
good behavior.
Yeah. We've been on a roll, just being nice to others, not to ourselves though.
I know.
Wow.
But I think
don't want to overdo it.
No. You get fed up, right?
You got to ease your way into self-love. You can't just go from 0 to 100.
Yeah.
That's right.
So I think that's an important point that you bring across, because by asking that question, I try to also teach people that there is no real thing as failure if you learn a lesson from it, right? And from every shitty bad thing that's happened to you or everything that you've goofed up on, if you've learned from it, it's actually a good thing. If that hadn't have happened to you, you probably wouldn't have grown as much as you did. So you're right on the money. You didn't even fall for my trick question. Damn it.
Sorry. No. Yay. See, now I have another achievement.
And that's why we interview people instead of just talking back and forth to ourselves. only the best and the brightest, man.
I like how you emphasized people. Like, we're not people, Brian. That's something else.
We are Martians or robots or something.
Men are from Mars, right? Brian, I think you're good to do the wrap-up question, sir.
All right. So, thank you, Claude.
You're
so
welcome, sir.
the first one that I have is, what is something, and by something I mean a modality, a tool, anything like that you used to swear by that you no longer believe is effective, and what you've used to replace that?
Okay. What? This is a very personal thing. Just because it's for me not effective anymore doesn't mean it's not effective. I just want to say that.
Okay.
I just come to the point where I thought I don't want to use it anymore. I mean, I used to do a lot of gym stuff in Australia, so I had this beautiful, these machines where you have two sides and you can change it all around and you can do everything with it. I love that machine. All you have to do is just use that, and then you have all your body parts and everything done.
The cable machine?
Yeah, and
the functional trainer, yeah.
The functional trainer, that's right. And I love it, and that's all I did in Australia. So I bought myself one when I got here. I have one in the cellar, so if you guys ever come for a visit, you can have a workout too.
Awesome.
And you know what? I've probably used it 10 times in the 9 years. Oh my God, that feels awful. But you know what? It just got to the point where I do so much outdoors, and if I do work, my muscle training, my main muscle training is handstand. I'd love doing handstands.
Awesome, me too.
And I have a wall. I can't do it freestanding, so I just do it against the wall, and that I can do every time and anytime I want. Or the other day, then I'm bored and I just do something while I'm waiting for something. I just like to do body weight exercises in between without really having a plan. This is not how I work with my clients, because I think people need a plan to begin with to then start feeling they don't need a plan anymore. So it's an awesome piece of equipment, and so often I've thought I could sell it. It's worth a lot. But I don't want to sell it because every now and then I sneak a workout in.
Once a year.
But I've really come to the point where there's other things I do now. And I guess it's also in a cellar room, so it's not really, probably also the setup's not perfect. So it's not you're not using it anymore. I still think it's the best piece of equipment there is. Like, I loved it because you could really do everything with it. But on the other hand, I've also, just do other stuff now. So, but it's probably just me, and also living, in the mountains, you're just so much more inclined to go outside. So, so probably that. Because I never really bought any of those other weird things, those stupid things, the ab whip, how do you call it, the ab? The crunch thing,
yeah,
stuff like that.
So
Stuff like that.
Those things.
I never owned. I never had any of those really weird things where you knew from the beginning, they're just bad for
Just
everything.
a gimmick.
So I so that I have it, and now that I'm talking about it, I'll probably use it and think of you guys like, oh, I did a workout just for you. So that'll probably be the answer for that. Was there a second part to that? No.
Beautiful. No, that was it. So next question would be, if you had to rescue 3 books, videos, resources, whatever they would be, from a fire, what would they be?
Well, one was definitely...
Or a flood, or maybe an avalanche might be a better...
An avalanche.
Ice storm.
Or like I have a really generous moment, I give everything away and I just keep 3 things.
There
you go. Let's have a totally positive twist on it. How is that?
I love that. You just changed that question for me, so thank you.
I was thinking like Sasquatch comes in and, you got to protect 3 books. But yeah, that's good too. You guys can be all positive and loving and stuff. All right, that's fine.
Okay, well, one definitely has to be, and I think in English it's called The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle.
Okay.
Awesome book.
Yeah, just honestly, I read it, I don't know, 10 or something years ago, didn't, kind of understood it, but not really. You read it over and over again and you just feel it and comprehend it so on such different levels. So I think that's going to be a book you just keep on learning from, because we'll always open up more to it. So I love it. Absolutely love that.
You know what? She started to cut you off. I'd recommend everybody listen to the audiobook because he narrates it, and it changed my life. Because I like reading, but the message doesn't really come across. But this dude, he sounds like he's like half asleep, but in like Zen mode. So you're just like, holy shit! Like, I want to be like him. Like, he just seems like nothing bothers him. So the audio version is awesome of The Power of Now.
Absolutely, that's a good idea, yeah. And he has another book, and I can't remember the name of it, something with Earth.
A New Earth.
Another, also slightly different. And I get, same as you, I get it on audiobooks, and then I just go for walks, I go hiking, and I just listen to that. It's just, beautiful. Yeah, so that definitely, Eckhart Tolle is definitely part of that. I have discovered, coloring. You know how it's so fashionable to have coloring books?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Coloring books for adults, and there is I think it's a series, or it's called Inspirations, I think it's called, and I have the one for the woman with Marcy Shimoff, because I've done quite a few things with Marcy Shimoff. She's a wonderful mentor of mine. So I've really discovered that it has nice little sayings in there and phrases, and there's all this coloring you can do in there. It's really relaxing. It's actually a lot of work. I was doing one the other day. I was like, wow, this is a lot of work. Kids are really patient. But I guess kids don't really do that much anymore anyway. So that's definitely one. And another book that's from Matt Kahn. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's a spiritual teacher in the States, in Seattle. Whatever Arises, love that. From him, I've really learned even more and deeper ways to be loving and nice to myself. And if something comes up, I'm the angry girl, and then I just love myself the angry way, and not, oh my God, this is so unspiritual, you can't do that. So he really puts a beautiful, different twist on consciousness and spirituality again, and really to dig deep and just to really be kind to yourself. And whatever Rises, love that, I think is the actual title. So I really, really, really like that. So I'm sure you'll enjoy that too, in case you haven't read it. And also, I'll just mention a fourth one, so I haven't read it yet, but I've ordered it and it arrived yesterday, I think, because you mentioned Mars, Men Are From Mars. John Gray actually just came out with a new book, Beyond Mars and Venus. And this is especially for us in the health industry really interesting, because he goes deeply how behaviors change our hormones and all that. So he goes way beyond just, okay, you're from here and this is why you're like that. So this explains how, to me, the Mars and Venus books, when was that, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I don't know.
Something like that.
That was mind-blowing. It really helped me a lot to comprehend every species, not just men, also women. So I think that was really, really amazing. So I just heard 2 interviews with him the last few weeks, and he was talking about Beyond Mars and Venus, and there he goes on a totally different level again, and how we how our behaviors influence the hormones and how we can actually behave ourselves into different health, which we know because we know we feel different. But this is also then the scientific proof with what happens to your hormone levels. What gets your oxytocin up, and what works on the testosterone, and what gets this. So it's really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to that. So sorry, I just mentioned the fourth one because it totally fit in with what we were talking, and I think it's like totally down the alley of what we're talking about here. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, you're a real overachiever.
Pardon?
I say you're a real overachiever. We asked for 3 and you give us 4. Gotta love it.
I know.
I think it was useful though, and
absolutely.
Yeah, I think I'll check it out.
Absolutely, me too. So now, who is the first person that comes to mind, or what is your definition of the optimum human?
I think that really is a mixture of so many things, features, traits. I think it's really that, and I wonder if I can't say a name now because I can't think of anyone, but I think that total peaceful contentedness where there's just that inner peace and bliss, which then gives you the possibility to do whatever you want, however you want, without giving yourselves rules and restrictions. So let's say we're still working on that. Let's say we're all work in progress for that.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely. Yeah, I was actually thinking, Claude doing his Arnold impression was the optimum human, but I think I like it better.
Come on, don't bullshit me. Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Wow. All right, so other than that, who would you want to hear on this podcast, and what would you want to ask them or hear them talk about?
So as I have not listened to all your. I'm sorry, I have not listened to all your guests. So I don't know. So I don't know. I didn't even know that JP Sears was on. But he would have been one on that. I would want to ask, how do you come up with that stuff? We all think it. What he says, we all think, but to put it in such poignant words and in so much humor, who gave that gift to him? So the whole creation of those episodes would be I always like to know how things get created, so that would be definitely something. Another person, we were going to talk a lot about food, and then we did talk about food, but my main baseline is really metabolic typing, the individuality. We are all different. We all different foods. So in that genre, is definitely obviously Bill Wolcott is the man, and he's great on interviews. So if you ever get him on the show, I'm sure everybody would enjoy that. And I don't know, if you ever go for more the spiritual side of things, get Matt Kahn on. He used to be a personal trainer.
Yeah, really. I am familiar, and I actually watched one of his videos a while back, and it was truly some epic content. So definitely be interested in reaching out to him as well. And
he's so funny as well. And he used to be a personal trainer. So so it would, even from that point of view, clearly now he's more, he's not doing the personal training anymore. But it probably will be a interesting new twist also, and quite interesting for you guys. So yeah. So
and what would you want to ask them?
What would I ask?
Wolcott and
Bill Wolcott, I can I talk to him all the time. So
okay.
I would just want everybody else to hear all the great things that he says,
all
because
right.
he explains really beautifully. I mean, with why are we different? It's so clear that we come from different areas, and I mean, we don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that Eskimos ate differently to people from South India. So we can't say, vegetarian is good, like what message is that to Eskimos? Like, hey, you got to starve to death now.
Well, you know what? Nowadays, everybody eats the same. It's McDonald's. So I think that's the problem solved right there. Boom.
That's right. It's perfect. It's really perfect. So to go more into the scientific side of things, and that the conversation with Bill would definitely be a really good and interesting one. And I think with Matt Kahn, it would be really interesting to hear, how his personal, because he always just mentions he used to be a personal trainer. It would be fun to actually hear more how into it he got and what his beliefs then were and what he actually taught, if he was quite, like what his path then was, and how he feels when he looks back, or what he does differently now. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Now, how can our listeners find out more about you? Where can we find you on social media, the interwebs, anywhere else? Snail mail?
Snail mail, yeah. Well, actually, I have a website, and it does even have an English component now, so I'm very proud and happy of that.
Awesome.
So if you go to www.joyfulhealth.at, and when you get on there, then on the right-hand side is an English flag, and then you just click on the flag, and then my offerings, the English offerings open, because I don't do everything that I do in German in English. But one of my big babies and a real highlight is that I have this gorgeous house with a small flat downstairs, which has amazing views and everything. And I do one-on-one personal retreats here. Like it's really one-on-one, like it's one person.
Mm-hmm.
And I really help them just to connect with themselves. There's so much coaching, energy work. There's to cook together, just to get them into the mood of cooking again, and then also explain them via cooking why their personal, how they deal or how they can cook for their metabolic type and stuff. So that's a really life-changing one-on-one event. Basically, it's
I
a
gotta
weekend.
say that sounds epic.
It is. It's like everybody that's been here loves it, and it's funny. You know how I got the idea? I had so many friends staying, and they always said, "Gosh, when we spend time with you, we learn so much." And those friends are all health coaches themselves. They say, "Now I understand that." And oh my God, do you know what you just said? And I don't know, I just talk. I don't realize what comes out of my mouth. And she said, and I said, you know what? I have the space downstairs. I may as well just offer that. I don't do it every weekend. Clearly, that will get a bit much. But it's great. And that I can do in German and in English. That's the nice thing too, because I did all my health coaching studies in English. So it's nice to go back to my roots, basically, and to work with clients like that again. And I have the gym area too, so they can also exercise. And clearly we do more outside. So it's because I do so many different things, I really do a totally individualized package for people. And I do have a lot of coaches that come here that just want to step up even further, or just want to, do something for themselves, because we know the people we neglect the most often is ourselves. Even
Absolutely.
As coaches, we do that.
Especially as coaches.
Yeah. So the listeners can, and then obviously they wouldn't come for a weekend. They could stay longer and then just make a holiday out of it. So I'll have that on there. And I have something else that's totally new, because I was thinking, how else can I share what I know and what I've learned and actually help people, is I now have a Joyful Health Q&A club. People just post a question and I do an audio video on it, because there's so many general questions where people get lost, like, why is that? I've heard it so many times that's good, but why is it? And instead of us having to say it 1,000 times to every client, it's nice just to have a database then where they can fall back into and say, oh, this is why I shouldn't drink with my meals, or this is why, So just giving a little bit more meaning to what people hear, or also looking at the different angles, and then people can decide, okay, she said those are different angles, like this actually resonates with me, and this is the way I'm gonna go. So it's not force feeding people my opinion. That's not it at all. These are facts, these are possibilities, these are different angles, this is my view, and now you make up your own. So yeah, so they can join the club there. That's online. They don't have to come to Austria for that. So they can just join and submit the question, and they have access to all the answers that I put out there. And that's brand new. I had that, I think 5 or 6 days ago. It just came to me like, this is the way to go. Because, I'm sure you repeat yourselves all the time. And and some general stuff is nice for people when they just go online and listen to it. Like, oh, that makes sense. I want to know more about that. Or, okay, this is all I needed to know. So, yeah.
Sounds wunderbar.
Wow.
Jesus.
You speak German.
Yeah. Sprechen Sie Deutsch? No, I don't sprechen the Deutsch.
Oh, God. I feel so uncultured right now.
You are.
I am.
It's okay.
I am.
Good that you admit it.
Birgit, thank you so much for coming on today. This has been awesome. So just thank you again. And is there anything that, any ask, request, last message that you would like to leave with our audience?
Like one suggestion that they can do for themselves. So is that what you mean?
Sure. I mean, you
can tell them to go fuck
Or
themselves.
should I ask them?
Ask them to be nicer to themselves, or hey,
That's
come
right.
check out my website, or whatever it is.
Check out my website. That's right. That's a good one. And yeah, if think about, you can also read about the food there. And if you do have a feeling everything's totally confusing for you for food, and you finally want to know what's your metabolic type, that's a good way to go on it, assess it, and have a consultation via Skype, or just join the club or come and see me in Austria. But the main thing is, whatever you do, enjoy it. And if you don't like something, just don't do it.
Awesome.
Beautiful. And on that
Wise
note,
words.
And you can tell I don't have kids. Just imagine you would say that to your child.
Right. Yeah, not a chance in hell.
Well, thank you for coming on. We'll have to talk about handstands. Maybe I'll be able to get you off of the wall one day. I like to pretend like I can do a freestanding handstand once in a while. So we'll have to talk.
Absolutely. Well, that's been so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Brian, thank you for putting up with me.
You're welcome, and thank you for putting up with me as well.
Of course, sir. Of course. All right, everyone. We'll talk to you later, and have a healthy and happy day.
Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Optimum Human Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to head on over to iTunes and give a 5-star rating and review, which will help spread the word to more awesome listeners just like you. Head on over to theoptimumhuman.com and subscribe to the free newsletter and get the Optimum Human's Blueprint to the Optimum Life. Download it instantly. Thanks for listening.